Hey, with pleasure. Thank you very much, Kaya. Thank you, Kun. And welcome everybody to this first meeting, second meeting in this case of the Jersey Joint Working Group on Living Labs as regulatory learning tools. And thank you very much for being here. We have been working from the last meeting in the, let's say, the management team in order to try to organize a roadmap for the community of interest in Living Labs of regulatory learning. It is also my pleasure to mention that we have been working also in a number of actions that we will present to you today in order to invite you to contribute. We will also introduce you to a number of let's say pointers to bibliography that, together with our colleagues of the JRC and the Commission, we would like to present to you in order to increase as much as possible the knowledge base from which we are starting. I must say that I am excited and that it has been very interesting, and I am sure that we will consolidate a very nice community of mutual learning and Living Labs as regulatory learning tools. Thank you also very much. I see that Evdokimos is here with us, the NL president. Evdokimos, if you would like to mention anything at all regarding the working group?
So that I'm as excited as you are, that we are all here. Only this. Good morning, everyone.
Okay, good. So Kaya, would you like to share the agenda with us and to probably to show our partners what are we expecting to find out today?
Yes, I don't have a slide for that, but let me, well, you do find the detailed agenda in your meeting invitation, but the general structure of today is that I will first, well, first we're going to do a tour de table so that we get to know each other and hear from you, about your interest in this group and your expectations, and then I'll speak. I'll say a few words about some practical details of the setup of this group and the overview of the mission and objectives of this group, and then Fernando and a few more colleagues from the JRC side will dive into detail on some of these outputs that we hope to deliver over the next few months. And of course, we are working in a very collaborative setting, so we encourage you to jump in with comments and suggestions. But perhaps we then just jump into the tour de table. I wonder how best to do it. In which order, perhaps just the order of the boxes that I see on my screen. And perhaps I just I make a start here. I would just say that, yes, indeed. So my name is Kaya Ket. I'm from the JRC. Together with Fernando, we are leading this joint working group. In the JRC, I support the JRC Living Labs initiative, particularly with policy coordination. And in that, we have been exploring the link between innovation and regulation, with particular interest in exploring the challenges and priorities that innovators and policymakers have in terms of regulatory governance of innovation. So hence my interest in this working group. I'll now hand over to Agnieszka, please.
Okay, hello, I'm Agnieszka Wołdarczyk-Gębing. I'm from Kraków Technology Park. We are a leading tech park in Poland. Since 2013, we are active in European Network of Living Labs, and from 2015, we are accredited there. And who we are the most mature, complete one-stop shop for business operating in the south of Poland. We work with businesses, with academia and territorial and national authorities, as well as we invite citizens and non-governmental organization in the activities that we conduct. I mean, testing and implementing innovative solutions to support our region, to drive new technologies and e-driven solution. We've got circa about 380 companies. They are mature companies as well as young startups operating in cybersec, Industry 4.0, in game dev, in IT/ICT sector. And what is also very important here and why we are so much interested in this initiative is that we are also very, very much active on the both regional and national and international level as one of the key actors in co-creating and implementing regional innovation strategies or promoting smart specialization and user-driven innovation approaches in the region. We have the Kraków Living Lab as the entity founded 2015, and we are also the Digital Innovation Hub. So more or less everything about us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Agnieszka. And next up, I have Mr. Carrozio.
Yes, good morning. Nice to be with you in this meeting. I got invited because we are in the process as the city of Genova to apply for a living lab. I work actually for an engineering company, but I'm the project manager of the Smart City Association. So Martina De Sole asked me to be in the loop because of my experience also from the past. In particular in innovation-friendly regulations and the science and city topics, which I think are at the core of the initiative. And in this framework, I would be happy to contribute and be actively involved in the team. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Next up, I have Razul. I hope I said that correctly. Razul, I'm not sure if you're hearing me. I think there's a technical problem. So I'll skip to Evdokimos, if you want to say a few more words.
Yes, hi everyone, Evdokimos Konstantinidis. I'm the chairperson of ENOL and also working with the coordination team of the health and well-being. So my background is there. And happy to be here to learn and to contribute as much as I can.
Thanks a lot. Next up, I have Bartel Mesman. Sorry, I mispronounced this.
No, it's okay.
Yeah. Hi, good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm Bartel Meersman. I work in the GRC as head of unit of the Transport and Border Security Unit. I'm located on the GRC Gale site, which is a nuclear class 1 site, so critical infrastructure. And we're using the whole of the site to establish a living lab to demonstrate technologies in the counter-drone area. So I'm here to learn from my peers how you do this, what are the advantages, what works, what doesn't work. And we had the first conference early this year after COVID in person, where we had people from industry, the user community, law enforcement, science, as well as the law enforcement. So really looking forward to see how in other places in Europe this is done and learn from the concepts and implement and best practice also here in Gale. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Then I have Ms. Petsani.
Hello from my side. I'm Despina Petsani. I'm working for FESAHAL in Thessaloniki and also working in the coordination team of Health and Wellbeing Actionary Unit Task Force of ENOL. So very happy to be here with you.
Thank you very much. Lorna, you're up next.
Yes, hello, good morning, everybody. I'm Lorna Scheffler. I work in DG Research and Innovation and following the Commission's follow-up to Council conclusions on sandboxes and working more broadly on the link between innovation and regulation. So I'm here to learn from the practitioners and give maybe some policymakers perspective in the discussion. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Then I have Ms. Caro.
Hi, good morning. I'm coming from a public foundation in Catalonia. We are Digital City Technology Unit, an interdisciplinary unit combining action, research, and practice and innovation to build quadruple helix collaboratories in the territory and with different thematics, and which is a new generation of living labs with this quadruple helix. So very nice to be here with all of you.
Thank you very much. Then I have Mrs. Fitzgerald. And you are muted.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm from University of Limerick and also initiating the Citizen Innovation Lab, which is a collaboration with the city. And this has emerged out of a Horizon 2020 project called Positive City Exchange, which is focused on the creation and replication of positive energy districts. We have three particular interests in being part of this group. One is the link between citizen engagement in identifying regulatory barriers to change and feeding that through a process to bring about policy changes in the city and nationally. The second is the testing of emerging technologies and regulatory kind of sandboxes around that. Currently no provision in Ireland to allow that to happen, which has been experienced as a significant barrier to energy innovation on our project. And finally, it's just a kind of a people-centered or person-centered approach to the regulation of emerging technologies. So there are three areas of interest, but they relate directly to our learnings from the Positive City Exchange project.
Great, thanks a lot. Then I have my colleague Stefania Contini. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, Kaya. Good morning, everyone. My name is Stefania Contini, and I work at JRC Unit C3 on energy, security, distribution, and markets. And I am the project assistant for the development of the Living Lab for testing digital energy solutions at the JRC site in Ispra, which is one of the two living labs that are currently being developed here in Italy, in Ispra. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Stefania. Alessandro, Grazia. There seems to be a technical problem.
Yes, can you hear me, Kaya?
Yes, we can.
Yes, sorry, my screen just decided to disconnect. Good morning, everyone. My name is transfer, working together with Kaya, and of course we're very interested in living labs, both as innovation support tools and as ways to gather regulatory insights.
Thanks a lot. Next up I have Evangelia, also a colleague from the JRC. Good morning.
Good morning, Kaya. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm also working at JRC. I'm based in Belgium, the JRC site at Geel, where I'm a part of an internal new European Bauhaus project. It's a pilot European Commission project. It's a renovation and an extension of the conference building we have. Where we try to implement the values of the new European Bauhaus and also to apply the levels framework, which is an internal, again, European Commission tool to assess sustainability. So for us, it is a learning process because we try to combine different frameworks together to learn. And we're hoping at the end to have a nice roadmap of this experience, which is based on co-design, involving stakeholders, bringing together different policies. Yeah, so we're learning, and I want to see how this regulatory learning could support my project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, I have Manuel Villarieto.
Thank you, Kaya. Good morning, everyone. I'm Manuel Villa. I'm a researcher at FUNCIAN. FUNCIAN is a not-profit organization from Barcelona. We work on energy sustainability research field, in particular on regulatory innovation. Our work is based on the study of the use of energy sandboxes in the innovation required by energy transition. We participate in a European project called TransNet, funded by Interresloe. The objective of this project is to integrate the study of regulatory innovation into the innovation assessment methodology of innovation in living labs. Living labs in general, but included the university living labs.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot. Next up, I have Rosa Almeida from MindLab. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. So I'm Rosa Almeida, as he said. Kaya, I'm gerontologist and the project manager in Interest Foundation Living Lab that is called MindLab. We are with ENOL since 2014, the 8th wave, and both Living Lab and Entity are specialized in mental health, active and healthy aging, and independent living. So in the region, we are also in the presidency of an innovative quadruplex of innovation cluster. So we have been supporting different structures, partners, and regional authorities to the adoption of Living Lab practices, and is in that sense that this regulatory learning has high importance for us. So then we can implement best practices that are adequate and innovative under these different perspectives and areas of knowledge that we will be approaching in during these exchanges. So thank you very much for this opportunity to be here. I'm sorry, I didn't put my video. Sorry about that.
No, hi.
Yes.
Thanks a lot. Next up, I have Sven from the JRC. Good morning.
Good morning. Hello. Yes, I'm Sven Schade, working also for the JRC as some other colleagues in Italy. I'm coming from the digital economy unit, where we are with a team looking into the digital transformation of the public sector and modernization of public administration. And we are really interested to understand how Living Labs can be used as a regulatory learning tool to understand how new technologies influence regulation and how we could do better policy to support the overall evolution in that field. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then I have Marina, Sven's colleague. Hi.
Hello, good morning, everybody. As Kaya said, I'm working with Sven in the digital economy unit at JRC in ISPRA, and we are trying here to help our colleagues and the participants in the Living Labs in kind of mutual learning ourselves on how to develop better and more friendly innovation policies. So not just preaching, but also help in putting in practice what we preach. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Then we have Idoia Munoz. I hope I said this name correctly. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. Yes. So this is Idoia Munoz from Gaia, and also coming from Gaia Living Labs, including Bird Living Lab, and we're involved within ENOL community since 2012, and we are very much interested in here because we are, as a cluster, we're directly involved within regional regulations and policies as well. So as a Living Lab and as a cluster hosting a Living Lab, policy briefs also and policy regulations are very much, you know, in a daily basis or in an annual basis, let's say, within our DNA. So we're very much interesting and looking forward to learn a lot from your experiences and know-how.
Thank you very much. Then I have Soba Abbas Petersen from Norway, I believe. Hi, good morning.
Good morning. I'm I'm from the Department of Computer Science at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology. Our Living Lab has been with ENO for quite a while, called the Wireless Trondheim Living Lab. But currently we're in the process of kind of changing that name and mapping a lot of the activities that are going on in Trondheim related to several projects, including the Lighthouse project called the Positive City Exchange. We also have another international project on urban sustainability in the Arctic region. So we have a lot of activity that includes elements of living labs, or they are living labs some of the time. So that's why I'm following ENO, hoping to learn from that more. More specifically with my own research, I am interested in how cities learn, cities as an institution, cities as an entity, as a system, how they learn, they evolve, how they innovate, and how that goes on. Also, how cities learn from one another. And there I see the role of living labs as an interesting part. And in addition to that, we're also just starting another project on sustainability, where we try to look at how to improve health and well-being in built environments in a sustainable manner. And there we're hoping to use the ideas of urban living labs to influence people. So that's my main interest here, hoping to learn and to contribute.
Thank you very much. Then I have Stamatios from the JRC. Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, sorry.
There you are. Hi.
Hello, my name is Stamatis Chondrogiannis. I also work with Stefania in GRCC3. We are now working on making work on a regulatory experimentation in the energy sector. I would like very much to see what insights we could get from living labs in this respect. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Then I have Michaela. Hi, good morning.
Good morning. My name is Michaela. I work with Sven and Marina, who talked before, in the digital economy unit of the JRC ISPRA site, and I support the joint working group with some research.
Thank you very much. And then I have Ines from DG Move. Good morning. Your audio, your mic is very low. Can't hear you very well.
Yeah, I don't know why I cannot use my headset. Can you hear me at least? I will be speaking a bit louder.
Yes.
Okay.
It works a little bit. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I'm here in this meeting because I want to learn from practitioners about the effects of living labs, and because I'm in charge of the preparatory work of setting up the high-level group on mobility, which will, amongst other things, also look in facilitating mobility transfer. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. And then I have Josep Maria Salanova. Hi, good morning.
Good morning from my side. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I am Josep Maria Salanova. I am a transport engineer. I work for CET, the Center for Research and Technology Hellas in Thessaloniki. We are a member of ENOL. We are leading, co-leading with JRC in ISPRA and with Austriatech, the Mobility Working Group. And we are very interested in this working group as well, because we understand that the scale up of what we do is it goes through regulation. So we have good expectation for this working group.
Great, thanks a lot. And last but not least, we have Razul. We missed earlier.
Yes, sorry. I don't know. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. Hello, everyone. I don't know what was wrong with this. Anyhow, my name is Rasul. I'm a senior lecturer at Luleå University of Technology and also managing director of Botnia Living Lab. We are mainly doing living lab research and very much interested in citizen engagement and more recently rural living labs and digital transformation in sparsely populated areas. That's what we are doing, some research and projects here.
Great, thanks a lot. I now realize that I haven't given a word to Koen. Would you like to say
I will,
something?
I will be
Introduce yourself?
I will be very brief. Hello, everybody. My name is Koen. Probably everybody knows me. Anyhow, I'm the network builder of Enol, and I'm happy to see that we can push this joint working group forward. My role here is making sure, as the coordinator of all groups which we have within the Enol community, to make sure that we can transfer the knowledge across this working group to all the other initiatives which we are having, for which many of them are actually present in this call as well. Nice to see you all.
Thanks a lot. And Fernando, would you also like to say a few more words about how your work connects to this group?
Yes, I'm happy. My name is Fernando Vilariño. I am Associate Director of the Computer Vision Center and Associate Professor at the Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona. My main area of research is artificial intelligence, particularly computer vision, the artificial intelligence of images and videos. And during my task in the Computer Vision Center, I'm very much connected to the policy development of AI, particularly in the context of Catalonia, working with the Catalan government and also with the Spanish government. And for that reason, since AI is, let's say, one of the paradigmatic examples that things that are going too fast, and regulation that is trying to adapt more and more quickly, for me, this is an excellent opportunity also to try to unveil the social impact of artificial intelligence, understanding what are the implications in also the regulatory level. But I will give more details later, okay?
Thanks a lot. So we finished the Tour de Sade. It took a little longer than planned, but let's now just jump into the content of today's meeting, and I'll just share my screen to get started with the first presentation. I hope you can see my screen. If someone could confirm.
We're waiting for the, well, there it is, but you should swap displays. If you go to display settings on the top, because we see your notes now. So you go there and you say swap displays, and then we see the presenter mode probably.
Swap displays.
No, so you have your slide where now it says GVG mission. Above that, you have three, yeah, there you are.
I see. Okay, yes. There we go. Thank you for that.
No worries.
This is the first time I've had to do that. Very good. Learn something new every day. Okay, so let's just get started. So just in this presentation, I'll cover some of the practical details of this group, and then I will also outline the mission, the questions that steered the work of this group, and the roadmap as currently conceived and put to discussions in this group. So let me first just take a couple of minutes to give you an idea of the practical setup and coordination of the group, and how we intend to work together. So indeed, we have convened a small coordination group that includes the Computer Vision Center in the person of Fernando. And then we also have colleagues from the JRC side. And at the moment, that includes myself. And we also have Sven, Michaela, and Marina involved. And of course, we're always supported by Enol. So thank you, Koen. So since the kickoff meeting back in April, we met in this small coordination group to come up with a proposal for framework, roadmap, and outputs. But as to the broader makeup of this group, most of you indeed received this invitation because you filled in our survey in spring and indicated interest to be part of this core group and to co-create the roadmap and activities. There were 17 of you, so we are very pleased to see that level of interest. And we really wish to leverage the expertise and experience in this group to create these activities together. So do take note of the proposed activities and outputs and consider if and how you could contribute. And for now, we do not propose a regular schedule for meeting in this group, and rather organize meetings on ad hoc basis to support specific activities. And it's probably worth mentioning here already that this summer our activities mainly focus on delivering some results by the Open Living Lab days, and you'll find out more about that in a few minutes. If you have any questions at any point, do jump in. So I'll just proceed now to the mission. So we have formulated a mission statement and key questions that steer the work of this group. You can also find these in the document that was attached to the meeting invitation. We would like to get your feedback on this. Does it correspond to your needs, your expectations? Are we missing some important aspect? But for now, let me just read this out. So in this working group, we wish to explore how regulatory learning can be applied in living labs with a view to fostering two-way learning between innovators and regulators, and to collecting evidence for better regulatory governance of innovation. Relatedly, the activities focus on developing and promoting living labs as an innovation and policy support tool that can be employed by innovators and regulators to identify and address regulatory challenges and needs. What I hope is clear from this statement is first that we want these activities to support both regulators and innovators as the two stakeholders. And second, that by advancing living labs as a tool in innovation and policy, we can really create practical value and opportunities for the members of this group and also the broader living lab community. And now to go to the key questions that steer the work. So first, the first question looks at more the conceptual aspects and operating mechanisms of regulatory learning. So the question goes, what is regulatory learning? What are its desired outcomes, and which methods and tools can support it? Question two looks at the practical value and opportunities for the two stakeholder groups, innovators and regulators. And it goes, why is regulatory learning relevant and important for a single living lab and for networks thereof? And what can regulators learn from living labs? And the third question focuses on the current and future practice of regulatory learning. And it goes, how can regulatory learning be applied to one or more living labs? How is this already done, and how could or should it be done more systematically in the future? So these three questions we have formulated so far. I see a hand up. Barte, please jump in.
Yeah, if you could go back to the mission, because I remember from a previous session there was an interesting presentation where this, if I remember, double helix was presented, where it was not only the innovators and the regulators, but also industry and the user community was involved. So I don't know if this is set in stone in the mission, but I would like to see these other two communities also be represented in the mission if possible somehow. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Very fair point. And indeed, we should try to integrate these two stakeholders into this mission statement. I completely agree. I hope my colleagues do too. And I think this we can certainly adjust that. Any other comments at this point? Please raise your hand if so. Yes, Josep Maria?
Yes, if I may have one comment. There is a new concept by the EC that can be interesting to have in mind, at least here, is the super labs concept. Mm-hmm. There was a topic in the last call or to the previous call. And we won this topic, so we are working on a project about super labs. And what the EC is telling about the super labs, on the one side is cross-domain collaboration, but on the other side is that they should end in policy. Mm-hmm. So I think that anything coming from this working group, and especially having the JRC part of it, can be interesting to support this super labs idea.
Thank you very much. Personally, I'm familiar with Superlabs, but happy to learn more about it. So I take note of that idea. Thanks a lot. Anybody else would like to jump in at this point? I don't see any hands.
I might
now.
go,
Yes.
if that's okay. Yeah, I think it follows on a bit from the last one, but for the City as Living Lab idea, that they're kind of continuing living lab processes occurring within these, which may reveal a need for regulatory positive policy change. And so that it's not something that's, it's a continuing process, and then there might be a particular focus emerging with a targeted activity on regulatory and policy change within an overall kind of continuing living lab, if that makes sense.
Thanks a lot. Taking note of that. Anybody? I see Agnieszka, please.
And I would like to add also the acceptance and participation of the citizens here, but also of the heavy end user. And I think that in this definition, what we may add, also consider to add, is testing before investing. So I mean, even policies, even regulation, if they are to be implemented on the mezza or micro level, they need to be tested in the small scale. That's what we do, for example, with the policy air quality plan from our Polska region. And it proved that this testing on the micro scale brought very, very useful insights for the administration to develop the final plan for air quality.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Don't see hands for now, so maybe I'll move on to my last slide, I think. There we go. So I would just give a brief overview of some of the activities that we've come up with. And later we will dive into more detail on some of the activities that are in progress already or in preparation. And again, this list is by no means set in stone, so we are open to your suggestions. But before I go into the list, I'd just like to elaborate a bit what influenced the focus and scoping of these current activities. So first, indeed, we looked at the survey responses and tried to reflect those in the scoping, and then also we wanted to anchor these activities in the innovation policy agenda. So really to make sure that we support policy initiatives that are being developed now. I can name here the forthcoming innovation communication that features elements of experimentation and then regulatory innovation. So we wanted to make sure that that these are reflected in this current list. So today we will be discussing mainly activities that are planned for this year. So I've named here the results from this survey. Those we already presented back at the kickoff meeting. Thanks again for those who contributed. The second item on the list is the collection of bibliographic references. And this really aims to put forth what knowledge exists out there already on this topic. Fernanda will tell us more about that later. Then we also want to put together a list of key concepts and definitions. There appears to be a lack of clarity on some of the concepts used around experimentation frameworks. So we want to look into that a bit more. Then we are also collecting practices on regulatory learning that will result in a report that we hope to deliver deliver at least a draft version of it by the Open Living Lab days in 3 initial areas. And then we are also putting together a short policy brief, which will focus on experimentation practices for regulatory support, and this will feature living labs alongside other practices. And then, of course, we want to contribute to annual community events, so that for sure Open Living Lab days, but also events organized by the Commission, such as the European Week of Regions and Cities, that's also happening in autumn. And those contributions will hopefully reflect some of the work that we will be doing over the next few months. And then if we look further to the future and year 2023, we hope to widen this collection of practices and look at different thematic areas. And then we would also like to formulate some guidance for applying regulatory learning in living lab contexts. And then we may also then revise some of the key questions that we've set for now for this group. So here's a summary. We will dive into the items listed under 2022 now. But if you have some initial reactions, please raise your hands. If you see some glaring absence, do jump in. I don't see any hands, so maybe, yes, Bartel, please.
Yeah, just when you speak about collection of practices, is it the idea to just have a kind of a directory listing on this, or would it be to have a kind of a handbook where if you would like to start with a living lab, or you would like to have these initiatives that you concretely can look into to see what will be best fit for you, and then maybe even link to some training program? Or is it more theoretical exercise that will be leading to something practical?
So what we have in mind, or what we have planned already, is to run some interviews and speak to different living labs who have experimented with regulatory learning, and start collecting some insights from practitioners, and then eventually broaden that exercise, and hopefully at some point we will be able to structure different types of regulatory learnings and understand what kinds of regulatory learnings exist already in practice, and what are the best practices to be taken up by others. It's I suppose the first phase of it will be more theoretical, in the sense that it is just trying to conceptualize what regulatory learning means in practice, and then eventually this could become guidance, and perhaps some more practical tools on how to actually implement regulatory learning. We will hear more about it a bit later, and hopefully it will become clearer then. Helena, please.
Yeah, just in terms of, who you would approach for the collection of practices, that there are a lot of kind of Horizon 2020 projects, or Smart City and Communities projects, which utilize living lab methodologies, but they aren't necessarily registered ENOL members. So I suppose it's a question of resource, what you can do now, but it does seem valuable to me that we would maybe do some kind of cross-cutting kind of interrogation of these projects to reveal what their experiences have been in terms of regulatory learning.
Thank you very much for that. We do not restrict this exercise to ENOL members. So indeed, if you can suggest some relevant projects or organizations that may not be part of ENOL, and perhaps even those that do not use the label Living Lab, but who actually run similar activities, absolutely let us know. and we'll try to yeah, reach out as much as we can, obviously considering the timeline as well and our resources. But, thanks a lot for that.
Sorry, if I may add on this, we are indeed not yet a member of ENOL, but we are coordinating a network between the 4 running circular cities and regions projects funded within the Green Deal, because we are involved in one of those. And the main activity is also to share this kind of horizontal activities. So I think that I can also try with my colleagues to channel in the team and a group some inputs in line with this point.
Definitely, Kaya, if I may, I will have a slide on that and potential collaborations for externals as well. So this is very well pointed. Thank you very much for the contributions.
Thanks. Okay, I'm just aware of the time running, so maybe we'll dive into the individual outputs, and then you'll hear more, and then we can continue these discussions.
Just still have Josep Maria probably with the hand.
Ah, yes, please go ahead.
Sorry, one very fast question. I was late and I was not in the whole set of presentations. Do we have someone from the regulatory side, from the cities, from the regions, from there in the group?
We have a couple of colleagues from the Commission. I think at the moment from national authorities, the regulatory side, I believe we have no one present here.
They will be delighted to be present in the next.
I am thinking that we can also be linked to initiatives like Living in EU, where they have many cities.
I will comment on that, Josep.
Okay, sorry, Fernando. And the regions and everything. Okay, thank you.
Okay, no worry. Thanks a lot. Okay, so I'll hand over to Fernando, I believe, or is it? I'm just checking the agenda again.
Yes.
Yes, indeed, to you. Yes.
Yes, thank you. I think I'm sharing now my screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I will try to speed up a little bit because I'm very happy because we have had a number of interventions and contributions that probably you will find a link for in the next slides. So this is good that we probably identified correctly the needs that we are having. First of all, for those who are not familiar, ENOL is having a number of action-oriented task forces. These are verticals in which the ENOL members, the ENOL effective members, are coordinating a number of actions together with their own community of stakeholders. And answering Elena's question before, yes, these action-oriented task forces are open. That means that not only ENOL members, but all the stakeholders and not only Living Labs can join there. The good thing is that ENOL as an organization within its mission has the aim of giving support to their members and to all the Living Lab communities. So eventually there is an enormous value in what the ENOL is doing, and it is good to be an ENOL member, but this is not compulsory to be an ENOL member in order to start. Because what we really want to have is a community of mutual learning. And this is the key point. And this transversality is essential for us. So this is the goal, to create a community of mutual learning in these verticals, which are social innovation and digital rise, social impact of artificial intelligence, health and well-being, energy and environment, and rural Living Labs. The reason why we're having these 5 and not others that could have is because we know that we have critical mass of Living Labs who also want to contribute in the coordination of these actions. So we have the evidence that we can develop and deploy actions in these specific verticals. In addition to that, and also in the context of our memorandum of understanding and agreement with the Joint Research Center, we have a number of joint groups which are transversal to these task forces. This one, Living Labs of Regulatory Learning Tools, a second one on digital sustainability for zero pollution related to Flagship 7, and the third one also in mobility, also in which our colleagues from JRC are contributing very intensively. So we have specific outcomes. As Kaya was mentioning before, we're expecting to have a short report as a first approach for Living Labs of Regulatory Learning Tools. In examples in 3 main lines, which are artificial intelligence, mobility, and energy. now, if you have seen the previous slide, you understand why, because we know we have the evidence that we have critical mass in this tree. So we are starting with this tree and then we'll develop further. So what is expected to be, why do we think that we are going to have some impact in these actions? Okay, we have a number of projects in which ENOL is participating, European projects together with the Commission actions in which that we think that we can scale it up. As Josep was mentioning, the Living in .eu political declaration could be a very good platform for this to happen, because we are having now, I think that 120 cities and regions signatory of the declaration, which aim at the development of this digital transformation. And also we have to understand which are the regulatory aspects and the regulatory barriers, and Living Labs are specifically identified in this. We have also the project DT for Regions, which aims at providing a platform for public servants on artificial intelligence and big data, with the aim of creating a community of mutual learning for the public servants as well. So I think that the regulatory learning component here, particularly in AI, would be very much relevant. And in addition to that, ENOL is also part of the Communicity project. The Communicity is aiming at funding a number of innovations in European cities. And the elements of sandboxing and testing is explicitly mentioned in the cascade call that would be awarding these innovations. So, Josep, in order to answer your question, yes, we have a number of connections with projects, also the Open Living Lab Days and the European Week of Cities and Regions. And this is a bit, let's say, the strategic planning in which we are underpinning, right, the actions of this group, among others, as mentioned before, right? So what happened yesterday? Yesterday, we had the Open Living Lab Days in 2021, Digital Living Lab Days. And we had an initial, let's say, startup of these Living Labs of regulatory tools, identifying a number of actions and connections. And from that moment on, we have been probably maturing the concept by giving it a little bit of time in order for this coordination group. And we got to the following idea regarding how Living Labs can be linked to regulatory learning. First of all, I will go fast here because I understand that all of us are familiar with this type of information. Living Labs are about open innovation ecosystems in which we have the quadruple helix, as was mentioned before. I think it was Bartel or another comment: government, industry, people, and academia. This is the multiple helix approach. It would take into account territorial approaches or sustainability. And also a number of features that Living Labs are having related to a real-life setting, the multi-stakeholder participation, multi-method approach, the co-creation aspect, active user involvement, very important, and an element of orchestration. So with these two, let's say, perspectives, we are having an initial definition of the Living Lab and how the Living Lab can work here in this context. So let's see if we can identify the components and start linking the dots. First of all, we have a co-creation process in a real-life setting. In this real-life setting, I insist, we have the active user involvement, the citizens participating there. So it is not only about the innovators. In our mission, maybe we could have it explicitly. Yes, I agree. I think that in some way we are assuming that citizens are part of the innovators, not only the startups and the SMEs, right? But we will do well in being explicit about that. And as Agnieszka was mentioning before, the idea is to orchestrate an action for test before invest. This is linked to the Digital Innovation Hub approach. This is linked to other initiatives from the European community as well. So we are quite let's say, in the narrative, right, of our context. And this multi-stakeholder participation, this multiple helix, with the multi-method approach that we are going to use from every stakeholder, provides a systemic approach to innovation. And this is the key. So it is not only the development of a product, but a systemic development of the context. That means that we have to adapt also the regulatory framework and understand if it is needed, or we have to understand also the regulatory barriers. This allows for the industry to have new products and services, for the academia to contribute with the knowledge of new generation, for the people to identify user-centric needs and opportunities, both, and to have a word on what is acceptable and not acceptable for the new innovations. And for the government, we have a role also of public procurement and regulatory adaptation. And eventually, this is what we identified so far as the, let's say, the starting point, right, of the link between the Living Lab approach and regulatory learning. But there is a lot. And I would like to spend a few minutes in order to develop in a number of concepts, even though not entering in full definitions. First of all, since this is a community of mutual learning, the first thing that we want to have is to share with you, and I would like to thank here Michaela Vedrova for the work done on the compilation, for Sven Shadi, Marina Manzoni, or Kaya, of course. Kaya, thank you very much. Lorna Schreifer as well, and also Koen Vervoort, because I think that it is very important that we are starting from the beginning, sharing the perspective that we are having in order to have an initial point of work. For the European context, we can, for instance, read the Council conclusions on regulatory sandboxes and experimentations, or the better regulation guidelines. There is a very interesting paper, also the working paper on experimentation with policies, regulatory innovation, regulatory innovation zones as a tool for sustainable transitions, which is tackling specifically with regulatory learning. And then probably I would suggest this paper for legal labs, connecting these legal labs for this regulatory learning. I have to probably mention before starting here that when we speak about regulatory learning, we can speak probably from two different perspectives, right? A bottom-up and a top-down approach, or there are different ways of mentioning, but in some way, we can learn about the barriers or the obstacles that regulation is having in order to adapt innovation to that. But also we can learn from the other way down, meaning that we can understand which are these barriers, and through experimentation, try to adapt it, try to change the regulatory framework. These are two different perspectives. And these perspectives can happen, for instance, very explicitly in areas that are transversal, meaning that every regulatory field is not communicated. So if this, I'm thinking about now, for instance, from blockchain, right? So this is tackling different regulatory fields, or in something which is very new. And this is something that is very new. Artificial intelligence is an actual very good example. So this would be, in some way, an initial approach to it. But there is a lot here. And as Kaya was mentioning, there is a number of concepts that we will definitely would like to fix with you. We are not in a hurry on that, but this is just a starting point. First of all, experimentation. We will definitely share these slides with you so that you can have access to this information as well. First, experimentation, understanding how experimentation is being applied in the fields that has to do with regulation is very important, and also both from the practical and a theoretical point of view. So it is not only how it should be done, but what are the lessons learned from the specific cases. And this is about general experimentation, right? Particularly in the concept of urban development, regional development, etc., etc. But what happens is that if you are having this approach for multi-stakeholder view, then we are getting into the need of having yes, an experimental governance model. Because what is happening here is that we are saying that we're having the 4LX model. So there are different types of of actors from different backgrounds, right? And governance becomes here an object of innovation. And what happens here is then we have to understand how we can experiment in these governance models. So this experimental governance is also probably an area of research that would devote a lot of interest in the following in the years to come, and would be probably related to this regulatory learning approach. Related to that, definitely we have the participatory innovation, how this innovation is developed through participatory actions and eventually translated into social innovation. So in some way it is beyond the pilot, right? How we all know that we can develop pilots, but which is the sustainable and consolidated outcome from these pilots in terms of social innovation. For that, we have a number of tools that they are very well known from the last years. For instance, we have the test beds, in which we are the possibility of testing the innovative solutions, sorry, and that are different from the sandboxes with specific definitions. In some way, we have concrete specific definition of the test beds, but their implementation are varied as well. Living Labs, we come from this context, the Living Labs in these multi-stakeholder citizen-centric innovation approaches, in which the citizen-centric approach is, let's say, the key and the real-life setting definition for the Living Lab approach. And we have also other instruments such as policy labs, in which these regulatory aspects of this scaling up of two policies are present, and we have a number of examples regarding to these policy labs. We also have regulatory sandboxes that have been used for years, and they have a clear understanding and a collection of examples. And in these regulatory sandboxes, and we will have a very nice example by Manuel afterwards, we are repealing or dropping down a certain regulation in a concrete space and time in order to see what happens if we implement an innovation that we expect to create a positive social change. So these are regulatory sandboxes, and this is something that we have to understand to what extent we can link Living Labs regulatory sandbox, which are the dimensions of the regulatory sandboxes that could be linked to the Living Labs as well. So here we have more terms relating to regulatory learning. In this perspective, mutual perspective that we expected before, dual perspective, regulatory challenges, how to identify these regulatory challenges, for instance, for the innovators that face the development of a specific technology with their startups of SMEs, etc. What means regulatory experiments, understanding that, okay, if we are now a clear idea about which are the best ecosystem that allows, or more suited ecosystem that allows for this innovation to happen, could we try to provide this regulatory framework? And this has to do with regulatory innovation, experimenting with policies, understanding which are the mechanisms that help consolidating this approach from a systematic point of view, again, beyond the pilot. This also has to do with other concepts such as anticipatory regulation, implying that if we have evidences that something is going to happen, and even though the market is not providing this step so far, we can take steps forward in order to welcome this approach. And then adaptive regulation as an instrument in order to, let's say, inject the agile perspective, right, of technology development into the regulation that now needs to go faster in terms of timing as it used to be in the 19th or even the 20th century. This also brings us the term of smart regulation, right? What smart regulation has to say or even mean, no, at all. But definitely regulatory analysis is something that that will help us to get there. And we found also a very interesting concept, which is the regulatory readiness level, which has to do with the technology development level, technology readiness level, the TRL, right? That helped us to understand this maturity. This could be applied also for the policy. So policy learning, policy experimentation, the dynamic approach of those are related to policy adaptation, and innovation sensitive legislation, meaning taking into account these new paces and these new dynamics that these contexts provide, right, which are quick and are eventually focusing on weaknesses for the population if not dealt with properly. And eventual problems could happen, such as regulatory islands, which have been studied in the United States, etc. Okay, we have different fields. This I'm not trying to provide clear definitions. This is something that we are going to work during. We have one year to set up our knowledge database, right? But these are some of the, let's say, complementary definitions that Kaya was mentioning before. And this is just to share that we have an enormous field of knowledge around here. In the specific case of fintech, this has been tried and developed with a certain intensity. And it is good to have a case, let's say, a case study in which we can focalize and we can land all these concepts in order to have a practical approach to it. But we're not going to select this fintech because we're going to focus on 3 specific areas of work for regulatory. First, the unveiling the social impact of AI, at least for this year, as Kaya was mentioning before, towards an acceptable AI through Living Labs, understanding which kind of artificial intelligence tools can be acceptable for the citizens also in this process of unveiling the social impact. Energy management, regarding the behavioral change between digital and green transition, that also was mentioned by one of our colleagues before, and also with mobility, with the agile conversions to a more sustainable model in which the autonomous car is one of the elements, but not the only one. Mobility is changing the way in which we live day by day. So for that reason, I think it is wise to start with this, not to open it too much, and to arrive to this year with this approach. We also are not starting from the scratch. We have a number of examples in mobility, some of them very nice examples from our colleagues of the GRC, like Maria Alonso's paper, also in energy, for the transitional water sandbox. And I will not say too much because Manuel will present a very nice introduction in 2 minutes. And also regarding the AI, in which we are having the possibility of a proactive approach to a regulation, etc., etc. Some of these areas are already overlapping, but this is just that we are not starting from the scratch and we can go on with the approach. So I hope that this was not too much. I'm not expecting you to have read everything, but this is just to say that we will share this information so that you can have access to it, and we can start from 2 or 3 steps from the beginning. Why? And I'm finishing, Kaya, because the next step is to get to the annual workshop of the Open Living Lab Days that we are going to identify, and we are going to work in this approach for these 3 specific areas. And the idea is to prepare during these weeks, this work session to which you are more than invited. And with the aim of getting to the end of November to this short 10 pages, something like that, about the Living Labs and regulatory learnings. Of course, and someone of you mentioned it before, if we get to the point that we can advance in this approach, there is an element of capacity building here. Understanding which is the regulatory learning and how regulatory learning can be scaled up to the rest of Europe through Living Labs. And here we have the Enol capacity building program that can be like a tool for that to happen. And we have the livingin.eu political declaration that could and the European projects that we have mentioned before that can act as the transfer for that. And well, Kaya, I think that I arrived to my last slide.
Great, thanks a lot. So let's swiftly shift to Manuel, who has a short presentation to share with us, I believe.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Kaya. Thank you, Fernando.
if you can do it in about 5 minutes, that would be fantastic.
Okay.
Always
I will try.
struggling to schedule meetings, but yeah, please go ahead. Thanks.
Okay. So you see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so again, I'm Manuel Villa. I am researcher at FUNCEAN. In the field of the regulatory innovation, our work is based on the study of the use of energy sandboxes in the innovation required by the energy transition. We participate in this European project called Transnet, funded by Interresudor. And objective is to integrate the study of regulatory innovation into the innovation assessment methodology of living labs and university living labs. We see we can define energy sandboxes as innovation supporting test environments in which regulatory innovation is present, an aspect that is missing in the methodological design of the traditional version of living labs, as you know. Therefore, our objective is to integrate these two validation approach for innovations. Therefore, this work, the first result of this work is a report. And the objective of this report has been to learn about regulatory sandboxes in order to address their use within the framework of the innovation challenges that exist in the energy transition. In relation to the energy transition, we can say that its challenges are as follows: increase of renewable energy and energy efficiency, flexibility services, create energy communities, and a very important aspect is to consumer empowerment, no? And the protection of the consumer interests. And why we need regulatory innovation in the framework of energy transition? Because regulation has been a lower rate of change than the rate of change of technological innovation. However, on many occasions, regulation has been faster and has facilitated technological innovation. This is the case, for example, with the winter package, Clean Energy for All Europeans of the European Commission. So as a result of the different in rates of change between technology and innovation, we can identify two types of cases that frustrate the entry of new innovations to the market. Case one happens when technological innovation faces regulatory barriers because it anticipates regulatory innovation. Case two happens when regulatory innovation is ahead of technological innovation. Here, regulation has traditionally been seen as a barrier to innovator, who see it as an administrative burden. The solution is to ensure that both technological innovation and regulatory innovation go hand in hand, and this is what regulatory sandbox are for. This is innovation tools already have extensive experience in other sectors, such as fintech, for example. And in the field of energy, energy regulatory sandboxes are instruments to support innovation at the decarbonized economy and helping consumers to access new products and services and protecting their interests. So, to discuss regulatory sandboxes in detail in the energy, we must to differentiate, create differences then from other types of test environment. For the field of energy, in the case of traditional text environments, there is no regulatory innovation at all. In contrast, in energy regulatory sandbox, regulatory innovation is one of the key players of innovation. So in traditional text environments in energy, there is a limited or not involvement of regulators, and technologies do not have a high level of maturity. In contrast, in energy regulatory sandboxes, regulators participate in a holistic approach alongside other innovative players to help validate business models with validated technologies that face some kind of regulatory barrier to the market. This is an example that with and how do they work, the energy regulatory sandboxes. With regulatory sandboxes in energy, we are real environment because a controlled environment with limited time and space, within which a multi-sectoral approach involving the participation of innovative actors. In our proposal, in the regulatory sample, a very short explication of how we work proposal of our proposal work. Learning in a study of living labs. By creating a scale of open innovation, we can get the regulators involved from the very beginning of a regulator. We had a chain easily enter a very short explication of our proposal. Is very extensive. If you want, I can share the link for the report. And I know you have a question, and thank you very much for.
Thank you, Manuel. Thank you very much. It's a very, very nice example, putting in concrete, let's say, that we were mentioning as a general framework. Thank you, Kaya. We can go on, probably with any comments or questions or reactions.
Yes, we can take a minute or two at most. I'm afraid if anyone has questions, for I'm pleased to see that someone has actually put down some concrete mechanisms for this process, because we've been looking into it, and this is our group will certainly benefit from this. And please.
Because a lot of technologies, yeah, that seems to be, so we're talking about AI or smart grid. Can't remember what the third one was, but in terms of the technologies to enable regulatory change of the upper floors of buildings, in the city centre Ireland. You know, it's not about the regulation of technologies, it's about using technology to enable regulatory change.
Yes, of course, it's these three verticals: artificial intelligence, energy, and mobility. Again, this is because we have the evidence that we have Living Labs working there, and we want to make it an action-oriented approach. This is not meaning at all. If I was understood as that, it was not my intention. That this is regulation about the technology, as you mentioned. Probably it's a more wider case, and your example was very good. And other examples are when this technology, right, is tackling a different aspects of different regulatory silos, let's say, and blockchain is one of these examples that have been applied, for instance, for fintech, but can be applied to a completely different thing related to transactions. So absolutely, I'm not specifically interested in the, well, I am interested in AI and how Living Labs can contribute to the development of acceptable AI, right? But probably this can be done by having regulation in a different areas of the technology, right? For instance, in the social implications that it is having, or in the food market, or in the way in which we are developing our democracies and defining our rights for the identity or for the privacy, etc. So it is not definitely only about the technology from my side.
Thanks a lot. I would propose that we run our last presentation, which is about one very specific activity in which you can also participate. And I'll hand over the mic to Michaela.
Yes, thank you very much.
I would say you have about 5-6 minutes at most, and then we can close. I don't want to take up your lunchtime. I stop here. Thanks.
Let me try. Are you seeing the right view now? Are you seeing my slides?
No, not yet.
Oh.
I just made you co-host, Michaela, so normally it should work now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sharing it in a second. And no, it should be the right display setting, correct?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So hi, I am Michaela from the Joint Research Center, and I will briefly introduce you the RAPID study that the Joint Working Group is undertaking this summer to get an initial idea about any examples out there of regulatory learning taking place in Living Labs, and also, very importantly, to get some Living Lab practitioners' reflections on this subject. So we just started last week with this study, and my big message is that we would like to invite you to get involved, to also participate in this study. So we are taking an interview-based approach, as mentioned earlier. The plan is to interview representatives of different Living Labs around Europe. We are envisioning 30-minute brief conversations, and we will be asking in these interviews about 3 things. The first one is the regulatory context of the Living Lab. We want to know which regulations are most relevant to the innovations and the solutions tested in the lab, which regulatory barriers have been encountered in the lab, or if the lab has benefited from any regulatory exemptions, just to set up the brief background. Then the second thing we want to know is whether the Living Lab has had any experience with regulatory learning. So for example, if any regulatory relevant insights have emerged in the lab, if the lab has even experimented with a more systematic form of regulatory learning. And in that case, we would be very curious to know more about the aims and the methods that have been applied. And what was learned about the regulation, and also how the lesson was communicated to the regulators or policymakers, if applicable, just so that we understand this whole process and how we can argue for it to be scaled up and transferred elsewhere. And thirdly, we would like to ask the interviewees to help us explore the feasibility of implementing different models of regulatory learning in their Living Labs. So we are imagining that there are 2 basic scenarios, a more top-down one and a more bottom-up one, which is a little different from the top-down, bottom-up that you heard in the previous presentation. So this would be, I guess, a regulator-initiated type of regulatory learning where the regulator might approach the Living Lab with a specific request related to regulatory innovation. For example, in order to test the impact of a proposed regulation in the Living Lab, exactly as mentioned by Agnieszka before, or the regulator might specifically ask the Living Lab to help identify or anticipate future regulatory needs. So one of the objectives of these interviews would be to find out from the practitioners if this would be feasible in their specific Living Lab settings, and how such exercises could be integrated in the activities and the methodologies used in that particular Living Lab. And also what the role of citizens would be within the quadruple helix model, and what the co-creation process of all this regulation innovation together would look like. So this would be great to get from these interviews, as many as possible. And I guess then there will be the bottom-up innovator-initiated learning process, the second triangle. So that would be a model where regulatory policy relevant insights would emerge in the process of developing and testing the solution or the innovation, and then passed on to the regulator. So again, the Living Lab practitioners' view on how this could be done systematically would be very valuable, and that's something we'd really like to get from these interviews. And also what the value of such an exercise would be from the perspective of the Living Lab. As mentioned by Fernando, we would be, for now, selecting Living Labs in 3 domains for these interviews: the domain of mobility, energy, and artificial intelligence. Later on, that might get expanded. And we have already done the first 2 interviews with Gaia, with the Living Labs located on the JRC site, very conveniently here in Italy. And we have already gained some tentative recommendations on both the top-down and the bottom-up model of regulatory learning in Living Labs. For example, in the case of the DES Lab, Stefania might be happy to say more later on, the DG ENER in Brussels is revising the Renewable Energy Directive, and they might want to benefit from the Living Labs' help in finding out how to implement energy communities mentioned in this directive. So that's something the lab is working on, and that's very exciting for us to learn about as a little case study or example. And the intended outcome of this exercise, as Kaya mentioned, would be a policy brief and a report eventually. So all the insights that we would gain from these interviews would be somehow integrated in some lists of best practices, etc., and then disseminated within around the wider community. So this is your opportunity to contribute at this stage if you would like to. If you have a suspicion that some regulatory learning has been going on in a Living Lab that you know from your network, for example, please step forward and let us know. Maybe you would like to interview them or give us a referral, just like Helena mentioned, of maybe some labs that we might not know about because they're not in INAL, or step forward if you are willing to be interviewed and contribute some knowledge. So thank you very much. At this stage, we would be particularly interested in people working on AI, but any help is appreciated. We would love it if this could be a community exercise where all of you, or as many of you as possible, take part and contribute your views. So thank you very much. Over to you, Kaya.
Thank you, Michaela. That was very concise and clear. Much appreciated. I would just take a minute to ask people to show interest in participating in interviews. If you can already raise your hand, a tentative hand perhaps, but so that we get a sense of interest in participating in that exercise. And of course, we can confirm everything in writing in the coming weeks. But if this type of exercise would be of interest to you, and you know already that you would have experiences to share, we would be glad to already note down your interest. I see Helena already. Thank you very much. Agnieszka as well. Okay, very good. And we got another one. Very good, Mr. Carrozio. Thank you. Very good. But of course, yeah, do contact us if yeah, to let us know if you'd like to participate, if you have any other.
Mr. Carrozio, since you are not a member of us yet, like you mentioned earlier, maybe you can send in a private message to Kaya here in the chat, your email address, and she can contact you directly,
Yes.
protecting your GDPR to the fullest.
Thank you very much. All very proper. Thank you.
And we have, by the way, over 30 members of our network indicating that they are active in artificial intelligence, so we can reach out to that group separately as well if you want to focus on these areas. So
great. Thanks a lot. I realized that we are 3 minutes over time. I also realized that, you know, we had a very tightly packed schedule, and there is a lot to discuss around each of the topics, and I hope that we have opportunities in the coming months, and certainly before the end of the year, to reconvene and maybe, you know, pick some more specific topics for discussion. Meanwhile, we will share with you the slides and also solicit any kind of feedback you have on what was presented today. We want to make sure that we consider your point of view, and I think we can close here. Fernando, should I be relaying another message?
No, I think that we are done for the time being, and really looking forward. Thank you very much for attending, and please be proactive in contacting us and in participating, because this is a building process, and we are really looking forward to arrive to the Open Living Lab Days in Turin. We invite you to visit us there and to join our community of Living Labs, and yes, and to have our first delivery ready for November. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and yeah, have a nice rest of the day.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.